Welcome back to another episode of Imperial Diecast. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone subscribed to this channel. We've hit 50 subscribers, which means a lot to me. So to celebrate, I'd like to show you guys this rare 1/24 scale model car. And all my fellow Mercedes-Benz fans will know that older Benz diecast model cars are rare indeed. And that's what this channel is ultimately all about. It's about model cars which, even if they are rare, are still affordable and do not cost a ton of money. So today, let's hop into a time machine taking us all the way back to the year 1983 to take a look at this modern classic, or as the Germans call it, this youngtimer. The W201 Mercedes-Benz 190E, widely known as the Baby Benz. This car is unique because as its predecessor, it pioneered the widely popular C-Class, whose first generation then received the codename W202. The W201 Mercedes 190E was a competitor to the BMW 3 Series of the E30 generation. The man responsible for the design was none other than the one and only Bruno Sacco. Close to 2 million units were manufactured, making this a staple car in Europe during the 1980s and even 1990s. Rumors say that the engineering budget of this car was around £100 million. There is a bigger high-end version of this model car available, and that is the 1/18 scale by AUTOArt. But geez, look at the price tag on that one. €500 is insanity for a car that, to be honest, is merely Norev quality. So if you don't have a spare €500 lying around, how about spending, and this is including shipping, around €45 or €50 and getting it by Leo models in scale 124 instead? Now, 45 or €50 shipped is quite steep for a 124 scale car, but you have to factor in this display box when weighing up the price. And this is a hard plastic display box, so it's definitely worth something. Once you do this, the model is actually really worth the money. So once again, let's begin the review by taking a look at the car as it comes in the box. Right on top of here you can see that it says Auto Vintage Deluxe Collection. And over here we have the Mercedes 190E 1983 label on the base. So I actually like this case a lot. Of course, the problem with cases like these is that when you have so much transparent material, there are chances that there will be small scratches, for example, up here. But I guess these are unavoidable. But overall, they do not take away from the viewing pleasure of the car. And instead, you'll just have to regularly clean all your fingerprints and all that every time you touch this. I love these older Benz models primarily because of their front end. You gotta admit that for a scale 124, these headlights look amazingly well done. You have the lenses in the middle, the reflectors made out of chrome, everything is here, everything's in place. We have what appears to be an Italian license plate. I think this was even before Italy joined the EU. It's from Rome. Now, perhaps the only complaint I have about the front of the vehicle is the black paint on the front grille's slats is a little sloppy. You can see that they went a little overboard with the silver, but this is just a minor issue of mine. You can also see that the headlights do have pegs, but these are small ones. They don't really obscure anything. The turn signals on this car are actually from a separately tinted glass, or I should say plastic. So they're not painted on or anything like that. These also have pegs, but these are even less noticeable. And they also have a nice texture on them. You can see the front grille is surrounded with chrome. And of course, the best part about the front is this thin Benz hood ornament. It's not thick like on some even 18th scale Maestos. In fact, I think that this is my only 1/24th scale car with a hood ornament. Now let's take a closer look at the engine. While opening the hood, you will realize that it has hinges. This is the only 1/24th scale diecast car that I know of which has proper hinges like these. Now, unfortunately, the hood, even though it has those hinges, does not stay open, so I need to prop it open. What we're looking at here is a Mercedes-Benz M102 4-cylinder straight 4 gasoline engine doing 122 horsepower. It's got a top speed of 195 kilometers per hour and goes from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in approximately 9 seconds. I'm going to show you a comparison with a picture of the real car's engine, and it looks like this. And you can see that the differences between this and the model aren't that big at all. So here's what the model looks like. As you can see, it's very similar. So here's the flash on. Maybe you can see a couple more details now. That is pretty satisfying. The Mercedes-Benz 190e has fuel injection compared to the 190's carburetor. This is actually very detailed for a 1/24th scale car. Alright, time to close the engine. Now let's take a closer look at the windshield. You can see that this car has only a single windshield wiper, but it's a giant one, resting in the middle. And appropriately, I think this is the windscreen washer. One of the main reasons why I bought this car is because of its rims. I love these old Mercedes rims, which you won't find on any other diecast Mercedes model car except the AUTOArt ones. And it's sad that they don't make these rims anymore on the recent cars in real life either. You can see that on this 1/24 scale car, they nevertheless even replicated the individual spokes around the circumference. Here we have a painted turn signal, which is unfortunate. However, what I like is that the door handles are separate plastic pieces, including a small dot of silver paint to indicate the key lock. The front wheels don't swivel, and so the steering doesn't turn either, so that's a drawback. But the trunk opens on this 1/24 scale car as well, so let's take a look at that. At the back of the car we have some good news and some bad news. The bad news first. You can already see that we have 2 pegs on each of the taillights, so that's 4 in total. However, the good news is that we actually have taillights that are made out of different colored plastic, or glass, whatever you want to call it, and that's pretty nice. And they also have this horizontal texture. In the middle you can see the rear license plate. Again, it says Roma. And above that we have a 3D key lock for the trunk, which is a nice little additional detail. It says 190e on the left. In the middle you have the Mercedes-Benz star. It's just a decal and not 3-dimensional like on the real car. Now let's open the trunk. Trunk stays open, which is good. And down here you can see that we have an actual warning triangle. No other 1/24 scale car that I own has this, so that is pretty nifty. Let's take a look at the trunk itself. Not much to see here. The bottom is painted gray. There's a decent amount of space, but nothing else. Now let's close the trunk. And down here we have a single exhaust. Forgot to show you that. Another interesting detail here is that on the driver's side we have a side view mirror, but on the passenger side we do not. Now this is not a broken side view mirror or anything like that. In fact, this is supposed to be like this. I actually Googled a picture of this car, and even in real life there are versions of the 190e, or at least the 190, which only come with one side view mirror. So here's a closer look at the interior. And I'm just going to show you a comparison shot of the interior of the 18th scale AUTOArt. And you can see that it's not that much better. I mean, the only big difference is that it has carpeting. And you can see that despite being a 1/24th scale car, they put a decent amount of detail into the dials and everything. I mean, you have the instrument panel, which is clearly readable. You got the Mercedes-Benz star on the steering wheel. You got the gear shifter. And down here you have a couple of painted buttons as well. So this is pretty good. Here's a look at the seats. They have a nice textured look. And over here is a shot of the back seats. There you go. Again, a decent amount of detail. You can see the door handles are painted, and we also have the mechanism with which you can manually wind down the windows. Now let's take a look at the passenger side. So as you can see, this car's interior is replicated in a satisfactory amount of detail for scale 124. You can see the climate control buttons in the middle, ventilation above. Here's another look at the dual color seats. And up there we have the rear view mirror as well as sun visors. Here's a look at the back seats from this side. So unfortunately the rear passenger doors don't open on this one, but I mean, this is a scale 124, so that is very much in the realm of what is to be expected. And here we are at the car's bottom. There's a lot of detail here actually. You can see the drive shaft and the transmission up here. And over here the muffler and the exhaust. Lots of detail. It says Mercedes 190E, 1983, made in China, by leomodels.it. So this is an Italian company. But it's interesting because I typed in this URL and it didn't take me anywhere. Their website is offline. 1/24th scale. So my overall verdict on this car is that it is something for fans rather than a must-have. I mean, first of all, the price is a little steep. Of course, you do get the hard plastic display case, but still. And this is also a car that is somewhat rare, which means you cannot get it everywhere. You have to, I mean, the chance of you getting this is pretty much 99% over eBay. And while I do like the extreme amount of detail that they put onto the front of this car and the fact that everything opens, the front passenger doors, the hood, and the trunk, which is uncommon for a 1/24th scale car, it also has a couple of flaws, which I'm going to show you in a second. For example, over here, at least in my model, I actually have a little bit of hair that is trapped underneath the paint, which is a bummer. The windshield has a few scratches. And up here, around the Mercedes-Benz star, there's just ever so slightly some fogging up, or I'd like to call this paint residue. I mean glue residue, sorry. And on the other side of the car, back here, we have a few dents on the rim. And a few paint splotches. But still, overall, I think that this car is a car that is definitely worth getting if you want a Mercedes-Benz 190E, because the alternative really is completely out of reach for the majority of diecast model collectors out there, which is the 118 AUTOArt. That costs 500 euros, maybe 400 euros you can get it, but it's completely overpriced because it's become so rare and everybody wants it. So this is definitely a nice alternative. I hope you guys like this review. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. And this is Imperial Diecast signing off.
Make the ground shake.